Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Entree Growth Podcast. Before we get started in today's interview, I wanted to step in here and kind of give you a little heads up as to how this conversation started. Normally, whenever I interview somebody over Zoom or maybe face to face, whenever we're doing doing an interview in person, we chat for a little bit, kind of get our bearing on what we're going to talk about. Well, the last couple interviews of the podcast, like with James Cox and Tim Crawford, the conversation before the quote unquote recording is so good that it's almost hard to recapture that for the interview. So this time we just started talking, me and Bruno, we just started talking about what we're going to talk about. And then we just kind of naturally get into our conversation on creative storytelling in advertising and how that makes a lasting impression in your audience's minds about your brand. And it's a fantastic conversation. Not only do we talk about advertising, but of course we're going to talk about flying airplanes because he's a pilot. If you don't know him from his Fly with Bruno Instagram page, you need to go look that up. He's an incredible guy. He's very humble, very honest in his approach to advertising. He's not trying to twist anybody's arms or anything like that. It's just creative storytelling to make an impression. And I loved it. I hope you love it as well. So let's cue the intro and then get right into the talk. Kind of the three main topics. I added another one. So first one, flying, and then social media, and then advertising. And I wanted to throw in the social media because you're doing amazing stuff out there in the world of Instagram and YouTube.
Thank you.
And I wanted to learn a little bit more about that. Whenever I heard you talk about the advertising piece, and then I looked at your portfolio site. I was floored by the work. Whenever I say I teared up, I wasn't joking. And I'm not going to say that I'm not going to be like, well, I'm not an emotional guy. And I don't cry at the drop of a hat, but I will.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That's probably the highest or the biggest compliment one can get on their work. When you cry for the good reasons, not the bad ones. And I think you're talking about two pieces, and I know you referenced them earlier in our earlier conversations, and they happen to be around emotional topics, but that we wanted to tackle because. And by we, I mean myself and the team that worked on those pieces. And sometimes you're doing in advertising, and I found the situation for myself to be in that situation or on that opportunity over and over. Sometimes you're doing something for a client. Sometimes you're doing something that answers a specific business opportunity, a business need, a business goal, and you have to. Just do work that will get them there. Oftentimes, you find yourself in an opportunity where you can do work for something that really matters to you personally, whether it's something that affects your life, affects people around you, and oftentimes, and I think that's when advertising starts to become life-changing, is that you are able to marry both. Sometimes you have clients with a specific strategy that they need to, or something they need to achieve. And you find out that there's an opportunity for them to get there by telling a powerful story that can potentially make a difference in someone's life, right? So I think the two pieces of work that made you that made you shed a tear happen to be examples of where we had an opportunity to tell a powerful story in order to get somewhere for our clients, but also in general provide something for people to just change the way you're thinking, do something different, or just even look at the brand in a different way. And that's, to me, that's the most it's the kind of work that brings the most joy to me, and the thing that really makes me wake up every morning and try to do, because it means something.
I there's only been a few projects where I've had to really dig into the emotion of it, and usually, so I've got one example was a motivational speaker, and how it worked for me. I'm really getting ahead of myself here, because this is really in the part 3. I'm going to keep this in my part to talk about me, and then we'll start so that you can share your story.
Of course.
Because this part of what I'm about to say is absolutely nothing. I created a couple of videos for a motivational speaker, and he's a really hard charging guy. He was in the Marine Corps, and he's just high energy. But my part of my creative process on that project was to just go listen to music, which would be the background track. And then, if I could picture and feel what he's saying as it syncs with that music, then I knew it was the right piece. And then I clipped all those pieces together, and it was to me, it wasn't award winning or anything like that, but to me, I really, really enjoyed creating that highlight reel because of the music and matching the emotion with the music. But music is a big part of my life. So
that's I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, if it all has to come together in a special way, all of the elements, and every single element plays a role, an important one, even if it goes unnoticed in whatever you're trying to achieve. So I appreciate, whether it's the simple things, the more complex things, or whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. If you think of every element and how they come together to create a second of that emotion that you're trying to get across, that's when you start having powerful.
In the meeting Murillo.
Yeah.
The moment for me was whenever I realized that she was blind. There was that 4-dimensional, or that 3-dimensional mold of the baby, and then I noticed, wait a minute, she's touching Braille.
Yes.
I didn't realize it was Braille at the beginning of the clip of the video. It just didn't occur. I just like, oh, that's neat. I didn't think anything of it because I don't read Braille. Wouldn't recognize it. But whenever I saw that what she was doing it wasn't just looking at it, she was reading. And then it hit me. Then everything in that. But that was that second. That was that pivotal moment for me.
Nice. Well, that work was actually something that it's very dear to me for 2 reasons. First, the experience of making it happen from the very beginning of the idea to the actual production process, and the experience that I personally went through and was exposed to through that. And the second is the fact that their work ultimately was the key moment in my career where I had the opportunity to come to the US thanks to it. And that literally changed my life, not only my life, but my, the life for my wife, for my family. And I think that we were just talking about powerful stories, right? And that work, believe it or not, it came from a simple brief. By the back in 2015, that was 2014. We had one of our clients was the brand Huggies from Kimberly-Clark for diapers, and they had recently, or they were about to launch a new type of diaper that was meant, or that was made for like really young babies, meaning babies in the first 100 days of their lives. And, they require even more care. They're more sensitive to things. So the diapers were made with that purpose or that age in mind. And then they came to us and said, "Hey, we want a campaign to launch this, and we want to say that this is the first diaper that's actually made for children up to 100 days of age, and it's different because of that. It's made for them and so forth." And like they were expecting the usual campaign with the usual elements, a TV film, digital pieces. Back then, yeah, even social media. So we sort of like set up to do that. And at some point in the creative process, I think our team, we always kept asking ourselves, like, what's the powerful story that we can tell here, if there is even one?
Yeah.
And long story short, and I'll try to simplify it, but we came from, well, we were doing some research and we realized that the first 100 days of the baby are also the first 100 days of a mom. And the baby isn't thinking, the baby isn't making choices, having doubts. He would definitely be kept up, would be up at night, but not for the reasons that the mom would be.
Right.
And this is the moment where like mothers or, first-time moms are like, what do I do? Like, can I do this? You doubt yourself. It's like nature coming together, you becoming a mom, or the woman becoming a mom, and even the dad becoming a dad. You don't know what to do. Like, you want to call your doctor every 5 minutes, and is it normal? Is it not? So it's a moment filled with doubts, questions, fears. And we wanted to say, hey, we are doing this diaper, this special kind of diaper, because we want to show you that when we understand the things you go through in those first 100 days as a mother, but also we are here for you. We as a brand, we stand by you, and we know what it's like, and we want to tell you that it's going to be okay. So we kind of thought, okay, so let's approach this from the mom perspective, not the baby perspective, because the baby isn't buying diapers anyway. So from there, we thought, okay, so if we're talking about challenges and all of the things that a mom goes through, what's the biggest challenge that a mom may face during that period? And then, long story short, a lot of the conversations and hypotheses and whatnot, we kind of landed on, the question, what is it like to be a mom, a first-time mom, when you're blind? And how does that impact you, and because if we could show that a blind mom can do it, anybody can. And we knew a mom can do it, because the bond between a natural bond between a mom and their children is something that overcomes any challenges nature itself can, create. So with that, okay, so let's then tell a powerful story. And when we kept, back then, the ultrasound, 3D ultrasound exam was sort of like a new thing. And the fact that, 6 months into your pregnancy, you can go to the parents can go to a clinic and get they call it a 4D ultrasound exam, where you can actually meet your baby for the first time, because you see the face, you can even see what the nose looks like, what the eyes and the hands and everything. And for a mom, for someone who can see, you don't get to enjoy that moment, not as like every other mom. So we're like, okay, so that's, if it's the first time you meet your baby, can we allow a blind woman, a blind pregnant, to also enjoy it? And then that's where the idea came from of like, okay, so let's print. But by the way, we learned that the kind of files, the output files from a 4D exam were no different than the files that back then people were using to print all things in 3D, right, which was also kind of like a new technology back then. So we decided to surprise her. She went into what she thought was a regular or a ultrasound exam,
So you're sort of filming this in like a real time, real emotion.
Yes. And we didn't know how it would turn out because she could be freaked out. She could, I don't know. We never knew what kind of, what her reaction would be. We did know that it needed to be the real thing. We couldn't fake it. We wouldn't tell her in advance, anything like that. So we are in the clinic. She's the doctor knew, of course, the nurses knew, everybody knew, but she didn't. And she's there laying on the bed, and she's having her ultrasound exam. And 15 minutes go by. We take the files, and we print a sculpture of her baby,
Right.
like real size. And we even added the braille on top that says "Hi, Mom," or "I'm your son." And
Wow.
we basically, the nurse walked into the room and gave it to her as the doctor was talking her through what the baby looked like. It was, and the whole agency team plus the clients are sitting on the next room with a monitor, watching it live, not having any idea of what would expect. We just had a good feeling. And then obviously she started, well, she just, when she noticed it and she started, to like touch her baby in a way, she started crying. Everybody started crying. We all started crying because we knew at that moment that story that we wanted to tell was powerful.
Yes.
It was a powerful message for every mom. And mind you, go back to where we started. We were trying to sell diapers, but at that moment, it became clear that was a much bigger statement that we were making. There isn't a single challenge that a mother's love can overcome.
Wow.
And that was the brand, kind of like became a brand statement. And by the way, if you just had your baby, here's a diaper. And that's not the way we wanted to end it, but it just felt like the perfect segue into introducing a new product later on. So that became a film, a 3-minute, I think it was 3.5 minutes film for social media, because you couldn't buy that kind of, like media space on TV back then. And so we went to YouTube and we went to Facebook. And this was Kimberly-Clark, Brazil. So back in Brazil. So, and they put a lot of money on like social media in Brazil, so it could go viral, if you will.
Right.
And they didn't spend any money internationally because they thought, well, this is a Brazilian initiative. The film launched on Mother's Day, and on 2015. 2 days later, as it was starting to pick up in Brazil, thanks to the media investment also, it got featured somehow in Australia's Business Insider, because it was on the internet and somehow it got to them. And then a day later, it was on People magazine. So long story short, the video got, I don't know, I think it was like 69 million views or something like that worldwide. Whereas in Brazil, it didn't do as well. It did go viral, but thanks to media, but it really went viral worldwide. And there was because we had to sign, like from the doctor to the mom to all people involved, there was an agreement that they would be landing their image copyrights for a year. So the brand could have the film up on Facebook and YouTube for a year, and that's it. Come 2016, it was offline. It was taken offline, but like up to that point, the video had been reproduced and replicated so many times online that basically everybody lost track, and you couldn't really track it. There are versions, if you Google Meeting Gorilla to this day, or go to YouTube, you find versions that are have different audio. Somebody made a translation, like multiple versions, but it's still based off the original version, which is in my portfolio, the one you saw. Right. That version is no longer online. It used to be under Kimberly-Clark and whatnot, and they had to take it away for copyright reasons. But I think that's an example of how a powerful story can be a better way to get some, in this case, moms, or parents for that matter, to fall, not only fall in love, not fall in love with the brand, but just go and say, they get me. They get like what I'm living through, the things that I'm expecting, the things that I'm looking forward. And ultimately, that's what is going to get them to pick your brand when they are standing in front of a shelf in a pharmacy and try to decide what diaper they should buy.
Wow.
So getting to meet that mom, and we did the same to three other moms. We had a main film that we wanted, and that was part of the strategy. We did the same thing to three other moms in the same condition. But Tatiana, which is the main one, that's the one you saw. And just meeting her, talking to her, see her approach to life, and how what we think is a big challenge it isn't really for them. They just do everything, and it's a life lesson actually, because
wow,
we spend most of our time, not most of our time, but usually we complain so much about our lives, and we don't have an excuse. I didn't have an excuse to complain about anything after I met her, talked with her, filmed her. We did the film, and we had the kind of like the story. So anyway, I think that was the long version, not the short version. But I just that project means so much to me.
Yeah.
Not only because the lessons I learned, how special it was, and also the fact that thanks to that, I was invited to come to the U.S. to join a pharmaceutical agency specialized in pharma, and which is something that I had never done before. But it just meant the opportunity of a lifetime for me, for my wife, for the other dreams that I had, and that work was ultimately what opened that door for me.
Say open the door, because you're from Brazil. Was it that, and then the agency now that you're working for, they saw that and said, "Hey, we want you," and made you an offer? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That's exactly how it went. There is a big festival, advertising festival. Well, Cannes Lions in France every month of June, and that year it was one of the most awarded projects on the health side.
Yeah,
that's what it got my agency's attention, and ultimately they reached out and said, well, who did this? And they went after the people, and they invited us to come. I mean, ultimately it was a large group of people. Ultimately it was just me and a partner of mine who came. And it changed our lives, and I'll be forever thankful.
Those, we've talked about those first two videos, that and the rape tax. Such a, something like that. The topic in that video has never, ever, ever crossed my mind. Ever. I don't, there's nobody in my immediate family that has ever experienced that. And I guess I got a fairly small circle of friends. So, and to my knowledge, nobody's ever gone through that. And that was another one that just, I was floored by that entire thing, by realizing, wow, after somebody goes through that and whatever follows medically, they have to pay for.
Yes.
that just took my breath away.
Yeah.
It was a different kind of emotion from meeting Morello, watching the rape tax video. But it really took it. I was flabbergasted because, like I said, I've never considered that, and how it was laid out, in that video, it just grips you. mean, you've got a lot of other amazing pieces in that portfolio that you shared with me. That was the first one I watched, and then Meeting Murillo. But then as I'm scrolling down, there's things like the Hardest Crossword campaign. Not only the entire crossword puzzle, but the video that goes with it. And then you've got all the claymation pieces too. But the fuel in the race car, that invisible thing, it was invisible something.
It was a stock car transformer.
Yes. It was pretty cool. What exactly, though, I mean, do you do? Mm-hmm. In your list of things that you've done, I saw copywriting and director, but I guess I just don't. Are you the writer? Are you the filmographer?
I am the writer. My background is copywriting. It has always been.
Okay.
And that's when I started. I started as a junior copywriter back in 2003 in a small agency in São Paulo. I was in college or university rather, and also working so part-time. And that's where it came from. And to me, there's a moment in your career where basically what drives you in the initial phases of a creative advertiser career is, I want to win awards. I want to get noticed out there. I want a bigger agency to notice me and bring me in, stuff like that. And that's the thing that drives most, like 99% of creatives throughout their careers. And you start from copy. You always work in teams with an art director. So you're a team of two trying to come up with ideas and trying to execute. And you start from what we call the rectangle, which would be your 2-page spread ad that you'd see in a magazine. And from there, you build. You can do a TV spot, a 30-second TV spot. That could be one for the Super Bowl, or it could be one for Walmart. But you're always trying to have like an idea that gets noticed. Whether it's different, whether it's emotional and whatnot. And early on in my career, thanks to the coaching of a lot of people around me and incredible creative directors that worked, and guided me, I learned the power of great stories, telling stories, not selling products, and how it needs to be told in order to be powerful. Because sometimes the idea is powerful, but if you don't put the elements together to tell it also in a powerful way, you may miss an opportunity. And that happened to me like multiple times. So you basically learn the hard way. As you evolve to a creative director, you still have that copy background in you, and you want to write and you want to do that stuff, but you start to incorporate other skills, such as, I wouldn't say filmmaking, but how to envision a film, or to talk to a film director in a way that he will be able to bring his skills or his best ideas to bring your idea to life. What the things to look for when it comes to the details, whether it's a film, whether it's producing something out of clay. What do you need to do to make it different? What do you need to do to make it unique, to make it noticeable? What kind of, if you have a campaign that's examples of different metaphors, or of different examples of a same metaphor, let's say, you want to make them, what are the things that make them unique? So I think my job now is as a group creative director in my current agency. You basically manage a team. You know what the clients want. I'm still after the same things. I'm still after great stories told, great ideas to put out there, and you try to just. But instead of like trying to create them and write them yourself, you guide your team to get there. And they will come with like half-baked ideas, sometimes with just good insights that aren't really ideas. And you just work with them to try to turn their thing into a bigger thing, and while still making it theirs. If across, like throughout my 18-year career now, there are a lot of, I wouldn't say like, they're like, oh, I write, so you go to my portfolio and it's all about, writing and copy and all of that. It's not. it's really about stories, and whether you're trying to tell them in a video, in a print ad, a radio spot, whatever it may be. It's all about the concept, the idea, and the thing that you're trying to get across, and what it brings to the table, or what's in it for your client. Like, how do they win by that thing that you just did? And I think that's where you probably can make a difference.
So, tell me about the purpose. I don't know if this is the right question. The purpose of a campaign. Started with, hey, we're going to hire your agency because we want to sell diapers.
Yeah.
It just that their purpose, their entire goal is to sell more products.
Yeah.
Right. And then you've got, it was the insurance agency, all those claymation images.
Yeah, it was an urgent care.
Urgent care. They want to get people in the door. So it was just, I guess there's different purposes for a campaign. So maybe that really wasn't the right question that I'd jot down. But
I think that you I know where you're trying to get. So let me help you there. Because mostly what you see today, like my work and the way I see my work, is that maybe 60 years ago, and if you watched like Mad Men, you've probably seen examples of this, but getting people to do something was really about making them think your product is better than the other. And so basically, if you want you in the 60s, if I wanted you to smoke this cigarette and not the other one, I'll find a way for you to think that mine makes you better, makes you look better, it was all about the thing that helped you achieve something. Whether it's a car, a cigarette, a beer, a watch. It's always about the thing that will make me feel better. After, like, fast forward to the 2000s, even 2010s, we now live in a world where people aren't really about seeing or watching brands' stories. They're about creating their own. When YouTube was invented and social media was invented, you get to be the protagonist of your own life. YouTube lets anyone make videos and become famous through their videos. Everybody does podcasts, and you get to be the host of your own podcast. Like, think about radio in the 80s and 90s. You only got to listen. There was like 5 famous radio hosts, and everybody would listen to them. Whereas now, you can have your own podcast. You can be your own, like, make your own films, and so
there's 30 million radio hosts out there right now.
Exactly. So we live in a world where people aren't really about, like, brand stories, or like Nike telling them to, hey, Nike no longer says, hey, here's a cool sneakers, buy it, don't buy Adidas. It's not about that. Now it's about making you think, and understanding, and by you, the consumer, it's about understanding what are the things that you envision in life. Who's the hero you want to be, and telling how that brand somehow fits in your life to help you achieve that. So Nike no longer makes movies, of films rather, about how their sneakers are better, more comfortable, or look better than the others. It's about people who overcome their own challenges and run a marathon. It's about athletes who don't give up even when they are tired. It's about stories of overcoming things. It's about taking David Copernic and making him the star of a campaign because he took a stand for something he believes. That's not about selling sneakers. You don't see one single shoe in any of those ads. You see like brand, but it's not about the product. It's about the story and how it can inspire you. It can do something like that. I'm using Nike as an example. Think about Apple, for instance. Apple doesn't say, buy this new iPhone because it's better. It shows you what are the things you can achieve by having that iPhone. The photos that you get to take, the films that you get to do, and the stuff that you get to make, so it's yours, and you can be the famous guy. You can be the artist in a way. So it's different now. So going back to my whole thing about telling great stories, I think that now, regardless if you write, if you do art, if you paint, whatever it is that your skill, whatever your skill comes to, when it's pen to paper, I think you need to be able, in advertising, I think you need to be able to understand that whoever you're trying to change, like a behavior or get them to do something, even if it's buying diapers, they need to understand that you're not trying to sell them something. You're trying to make them the heroes of their own lives. And sometimes you do that by telling your mom that there's nothing she can't overcome. And then when they see your brand, your little brand printed on a package, sitting on a shelf, that's the thing they will remember. It's not about the being more comfortable or buy one get one or whatever. It's like, it's really down to what the brand means to you. Even think about like airlines. Airlines don't even advertise their first class or how better it is than the next other, like business class or whatever. It's about conquer the world. Just go, like, imagine the things that you get to experience when you go to India or Africa or I don't know, like Hawaii. It's more about the things that you will be able to achieve than the products. Oh, we have that, like, we are the only ones who have non-stop flight. That doesn't matter anymore. Oh, our seat reclines like 181 degrees. Nobody cares. It's really about what are the things that you help me achieve when we get there, when we land, or after we land. That's what it is all about. And I think that overall, just watch the commercials, even Super Bowl commercials. Not one Super Bowl commercial ends by saying, this is the product you need to buy. It's always crazy stuff, but it's just like 30 seconds of something that entertains you. And you go, you know what? I like that brand. I don't even know what they sell, or perhaps I never thought about them, but I like them. They're funny. They made me cry. They made me do something, And I think nowadays, that's what advertising is about. And it's actually a way the brands are crossing the line of being the thing that you buy to being a thing that it's a part of your life.
Yeah.
And it really makes a difference for them, because ultimately that's what gets you to their store, online or physical,
right?
To buy the products.
Now, there's something that seems like a common denominator from advertising in the 60s, whenever it's brand centric, and then advertising now, whenever it's client centric, in that story centric, is whatever that they're selling, then or now, it's the message is it will help you either achieve this goal, achieve this dream, or avoid this pain. It's just how it's delivered is what's changed. And this whole time that you're talking now, I came into this whole thought process of using story like 20 years after you did. But I was really introduced to the whole concept through Donald Miller and like his book, Building a Story Brand. That's where it came across. First, I was listening to podcasts by Michael Hyatt, and then he was probably a guest on that show. And the whole time he's preaching. The concepts that he's preaching are making sure that the prospect, that the client, is the hero of the story. And you said that earlier. Making sure Star Wars could have just been a one and done film, but we all
we all know Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker was what is the hero of the story. We all love Yoda.
Yeah.
But Luke Skywalker is the hero of the story.
Right.
And our position as companies with products or services to sell, is to be the guide, is to help the customer achieve their goal, not to look at me. And what's interesting is that he talks about how the concept of this whole storytelling to get people to buy into something, it's been around for thousands and thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it has. I mean, every historical document that's from thousands of years ago, from the Bible to whatever, was first passed down orally. It was the telling the story. And that I just lost my train of thought. Anyways, but the whole purpose of that was the storytelling. But then it shifted, I guess, in the early part of the industrial age, to where now whenever you say that your background is in copywriting, I'll tell you what I think of. Mm-hmm. I think of Dan Kennedy. I think of Ray Edwards, and a framework for copywriting is what's the problem, amplify the problem, then talk about the solution, the transformation that people expect if or could experience if they use your solution. You make an offer, and then you call them to action. It's basically 5 or 6 elements of, and I'm thinking long form, 8-10 page sales letter.
Yeah.
Whenever you're copywriting.
Yeah.
I know that's not what you're talking about, but whenever that's what comes to mind. That's what comes to my mind, because that's the books I've read. That's the teaching I've learned as far as copywriting.
And that's where I came from. It used to be that. Like that was the format.
Okay.
Those are, and to this day, those are still the boxes that you need to check in every campaign. The difference is you get to do it in ways that are different. It's just not about, you need to follow those steps like in order, and sometimes you skip 1 or 2 of them, because the other thing that one of the other ones is actually more powerful to grab your attention. So ultimately, in a campaign or in the entire message stream, you will get to check all of those boxes, whether you're doing something that takes somebody to a website, to a social media profile or whatever. They will get from 1 to 6 ultimately.
Yeah.
But sometimes you don't necessarily need to do it all in one single thing, a piece. Back in the 60s, where you have like this long form copy ads about a car, and all of the reasons, one paragraph for each reason why you should buy it, or why it would make you look better, or whatever. That's how they did it, and they did it like beautifully. I probably could never write a copy like that, but now you get to do it in ways that are more unexpected, and I think that's the opportunity that we keep trying to grab onto in every single challenge, every single brief for every single client.
Just in talking about advertising and getting people's attention, you say unexpected. Just to be completely honest about my train of thoughts, and this is not bad, but on Netflix a couple years ago, they actually had the Dick Van Dyke Show on there, and my wife and I, that was what we'd watch every night before going to bed. We'd watch an episode of Dick Van Dyke Show, and Rob Petrie on the show, he was a writer for the show that he was on. And he was talking to his son's school class about writing comedy. And one of the things he said, that whenever telling them about what makes good comedy, that makes people stick, or what sticks to people, is what's unexpected.
Right. Exactly.
Because it's all about, it's that capturing people's attention. I mean, and even you were talking about this meeting Morello going on social media. And I was talking to the one of the Facebook representative several months ago, and he told me that people scroll through Facebook about 300 feet of newsfeed a day.
Wow.
And 6 inches on an iPhone.
Yeah.
300 feet.
That's all. That's actually an interesting data. I never thought about it, but can you imagine it, like, even if you took them, like, made it physical and put it in front of somebody, this is how much you scroll just while you were in bed before putting your phone down and going to sleep. I think that's really cool.
And then so thinking about catching people's attention, because a lot of folks in the marketing world, they talk about, you got to stop the scroll. Whatever you do, you got to stop. And on social media, a lot of times that's done more easily and faster with humor. Mm-hmm. But then whenever something like Reading Morello starts to catch on, people are sharing it like crazy, then they'll stop to watch. And I think, you talked about it, some people translating it and things like that. It's like, no, I think what made it more engaging for me, I had to pay attention to it because it was in another language. Yeah. I had to read it.
No, and you're right. And it's funny because people, even back then, this is 2015, there were formulas of success for making a video for the internet. People won't watch if it's over like a minute. Or, you can make it, you got to, make your point in the first 30 seconds. Otherwise, you lose people's attention and whatnot. And it's not that we wanted to defy all of that, but as the story was coming together, we knew there was only one way to tell it and make it right. Mm-hmm. And if that meant breaking some of those rules, or not even breaking, but not respecting or abiding to some of those rules, so be it. Like, whoever stays on for the entire 3 minutes and 40 something seconds or whatever it was, great. If not, then and we didn't use tricks or anything to get people involved. It's just like when you walk into a movie theater, you're prepared to be there for 2 hours, no matter what, right? And you can't skip. You can't go to the next room. On the internet, it's like the next thing is like one click away, and so you want to make sure that people are engaged by what you're showing. And sometimes it's because it's unexpected, weird, and it's like, what am I looking at? Or sometimes it's just, hey, I want to see how this ends. And there's a lot of filmmaking skills and talent that goes into it that the filmmaking team and the director obviously puts a lot of work on. But it all has to come together in a way that keeps you engaged to the very end. And that's another challenge. Even on TV, you can, like, flick to the next channel if you don't like the ad. And I like that. That's one of the basic things in a phone where people scroll like 300 feet. How do you get them to stop and even read what they see there, or even click and, oh, I want to know more? So that's why stories that they feel attracted to, they feel curious about, that's what makes a difference nowadays.
What are some of your influences? I mean, you've been studying, you've been living this. Who are some of your influences over the years that you really have looked up to and learned from?
Music. It's funny that when, just going back a bit, for every career, there seems to be a mandatory university courses or specialization courses or whatever that gets you and gets you to be good in advertising. And this comes from experience of people around me, stories from people that came before me, and the ones that are coming now. There isn't really a formula, because if you're a creative, that's what we call ourselves. Like, not because we are creatives. Like, creatives are the guys who are people who are creating campaigns in agencies. Like, you come from all sorts of places and interests and cultures and everything. And the more mixed it is, the better. So for instance, my influences, even though I went to my degree is in communication, social communication, if that even makes sense in English, but that's what it was called in Portuguese. We they try to teach you or prepare you with a formula of how an agency and how the work works. But you dive into it really, and when you're doing it for real, it's nothing like that. It's just like if you like, the more you knowledge and interest you have in life, the more you fill your brain with references and knowledge, things that you can play with to then bring something to life. So I love film. I grew to love filmmaking, not because I needed to, but because I just liked it. And whenever I need to do something that's related to film, that kind of comes into play. Music, culture. I like traveling a lot, going to places and meeting other people. And all of this really comes to life. It's not knowledge that I got, books that I read, or knowledge that I got in university. It's life. Life is really feeds advertising, because you want to talk to people who are living their lives, and it's not so much about understanding how a drug works or how diapers work, for that matter. It's more about I want to I want to talk to these people, and not like from above, like I know something better than you and that's what you need to do. It's like, I get you, we live the same life, here's how we can do something, you could do something amazing, and how I as a brand can help you achieve that. So the influences are everybody's influences. I see you like music. I'm pretty sure that even in ways that you don't even grasp, have influenced decisions you made in your life, or things that the choices you made whenever you were making plans for travel or whatever it may be. That's how it works in advertising too. Like what you're not really doing things in order to fill your brain with like references or anything. You just you're naturally, I find myself naturally interested in getting more knowledge, learning more about different walks of life, and that ultimately, when it comes back to like pen to paper, and you're trying to find a great story to tell about something, to sell something, it comes into play. Sometimes you're just able to grab that drawer, open it, and you're like, oh, like I learned this some like back in 15 years ago. There's something I could do with it. So that's how it works, if it even makes sense.
Well, it does, and I wouldn't say the only reason, but fortunately, because I have a background in music, I know what you're saying. Now, honestly, that wasn't the answer I was expecting. I was expecting like David Ogilvy, man, he's the master. I've studied everything he's ever done, but as a creative director, it's not. Your answer was 10 times better than what I thought I was going to get. Because like you said, it's not that one source. It's everything we get to experience and see and touch and smell in life that kind of feeds that ability to draw from, where you can draw from those things to be able to create something amazing.
Right.
I mean, you mentioned earlier that you did start, you have a framework, and you want to check these boxes of what creates of what is good copy, but as the overall creative process, it's all those things that you get to experience and know in life that make it great.
Yeah.
So that was doggone you, Bruno. You answered way better than what I was shooting for.
I'm glad. I'm super glad. And just to I was just thinking about it, and perhaps it's a good segue to what you're saying. Let me put it in a different way. It's common for people to have heroes in their careers, right? Yeah. You have mentors, or you have people that you admire, and you're like, you know what? I'm going to work hard. I want to become that guy or that woman one day. And whether they are the CEO of the biggest company in your industry, or they are the ones who changed something. I definitely have heroes in advertising. People that I'm like, that guy is an example because he did this work or that work that I truly admire. But honestly, my true heroes in life are people who are really making other people's lives better thanks to their work. And I'll give you an example. This may be a silly one, but think about what Elon Musk is trying to do, and the frontiers that his work and what he's accomplished so far, can like give the world population in the future.
Yeah.
If we lived in a world where cars weren't polluting our Earth, I I think we will all be better off.
Yeah.
And now he's going to space, and I don't know what's going to do there, but it's like, what? Maybe like I can't be Elon Musk, but can I impact people's lives in some way, but by what we are doing? And that's the sort of inspiration I get. Did the heroes that I have in advertising did that in the past? Like often, no. They just they got recognized by beautiful work, by achieving great results and whatever. But sometimes you can call that like they probably changed brands, histories, or did something amazing.
Yeah.
But I don't think people back in the days in advertising were able to touch people's lives the way that we can now. Are we all doing that? No. Am I doing that most of the time? Definitely not. But can we, if we push for it? Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that, just when you understand that by trying to tell stories or get people to do something, you can influence them to live a better life. That's what I get. And to your point, like what are the things that can influence that? It's definitely not a crash course or like a college degree or something like that. It's life itself, and I'm learning every day. I'm looking for references every day that things that inspire me, and that's the thing that comes into play when you're trying to create one of those stories.
So the creating the stories that can change people's lives for the better, that can inspire people. It's pretty great that you say it like that, because I'm going to talk about you.
Okay.
What you're doing, and this is where our paths crossed, was on social media, on Instagram.
Right.
What you're doing there is really simply amazing. What you've said before is that you just want to post something about aviation every day.
Yeah.
And in doing something as simple as that, now, aviation's cool. You've grown to like 26,000 followers on Instagram. And that's your short form content. That's a picture and a little blurb of a story, a clip of turbulence raising you up 100 feet, dropping you 100 feet, and everything going airborne in the cockpit.
Yeah,
a
little scary. Yeah.
Just that short. So that's your short form side. And over on YouTube, you've got 4,500 followers over there on YouTube, and you've got your more longer form video content of 8, 15 minutes, something like that, of just amazingly well produced
Thank you.
long form video content. But talking about inspiring people, there's 26,000 more people that are inspired by your aviation content that could be doing something else.
Right.
And it's inspiring the next generations of aviators. And so what you're doing there is amazing. And like I said, that's where our paths crossed, because whenever I started playing on Instagram more, came across you, I don't know, about a year ago, I think. So what did you start with? whenever you started the Instagram, I don't know if that's where it started or if you started making long form videos for YouTube. What did you start whenever you were diving into social media? What were your intentions? What was your goal there, or did you have a goal?
I honestly none. When I started, I remember, and like very very few people must know about this, but back in 2018, I love photography, and I still have a profile on Instagram with just a little north of 1,000 followers. That was about photography and not much about my life. But when I moved to New York, I was really amazed by the city and everything the city has to offer. It wasn't my first time here, but living here was a completely different experience. So I tried to just take photos of the city and post on my Instagram. And after I started traveling for work more often, which started to happen around 2017, 2018, I was like, I like aviation so much. I'll start an aviation Instagram dedicated to aviation, and I called it Airplane Mode. But the name was taken, so it was like airplane 4 underscores and mode. Somebody else had that idea, of course.
That's funny.
And that Instagram was mostly me on window seats on coach class, taking pictures of the stuff that I would see outside, sitting in airports for hours waiting for my flights, taking pictures of the ramp and stuff like that. And I thought, what? If there's somebody who likes aviation, they might be interested in following, because that's what I do every day. I had a library of photos, and I was like, I'm going to do this every day and make it my ritual, because I feel good about sharing that stuff too. And then a year later, and I had 400 followers or something like that. Half of them were probably friends and family. Yeah. I decided to start my life in aviation, meaning becoming a pilot or pursuing my pilot's license, without having any idea of where to start, how much it would cost, or even who to talk to. So I started doing all of that research, and I remember the first time that first photo that I posted about that journey was me sitting at the Flight Safety International headquarters right here at LaGuardia Airport, which is close to home. I had to go there to get my fingerprints done for the TSA, because as a foreign student, future foreign student, I had to go through a very complex background checks just to make sure to have the TSA authorize my flight school to teach me how to fly.
Wow.
I understand why that has to happen. I bet a lot of American pilots don't even know that this process exists for foreign pilots. I understand why it exists, but to me, it was just an extra step. And that day, I decided to change my Instagram name, if you can even call it that, to Fly with Bruno. Obviously, Fly with Bruno was taken, so I had to take Fly _with _Bruno. I actually had somebody the other day ask me, why don't you offer that guy some money to just buy it from him? And I'm like, I don't need it. It's not like it's like a deal breaker to me. But anyway, so I started doing my training, and I decided that I would just share what it's like to be a pilot in training, and the good parts, the bad parts, and what I struggle with, what I didn't struggle with. And I didn't do it because I wanted to inspire people or anything like that. It was just like, hey, here's a window to something in my life that gets me excited, that became really the thing that I love the most. And if you care to, look at it, here it is, no strings attached. And so I go to my training, and after I got my license, I started flying by myself. It's much easier to take pictures while you're flying, because you don't have a CFI next to you saying, don't fly the plane, don't take pictures and whatnot. And then I started to just realize that in doing so, I sort of training myself how to tell stories and things, I could do something that could be inspiring. So I just kept the same routine, posting every day. I think the content got better because I was able to focus more on that than while than just to learn how to fly. And out of nowhere, and I can't really pinpoint, what was the thing that, kind of like got it to grow, but it just started growing. I would post photos, and I was one thing, and I wasn't pretending anything. I was always being authentic, putting myself and making sure that people understood that I'm a pilot. I was a pilot in training, or a low-time pilot. I still am. I make mistakes. I'm not here to teach anybody how to do aviation. I can certainly share my experiences like I do. I had a lot of people that reach out to me and say, hey, I want to be a pilot. Where do I start?
Yeah.
And it could be somebody here from New York. It could be somebody from India, Brazil, South Africa. And I'm like, I offer my best advice. I tell them my story, and I try to, just provide any kind of advice that I can. But I don't see myself playing a role or anything like that. And to this day, if you ask me, like, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? Zero, nothing. I want to share my story in aviation because for me, aviation is something that I love since I was a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And the moment that it became a part of my life, and I decided that I was committed to it for the rest of my life, as long as my health and my wallet allows me to keep that. I wanted to show, like, not only the great things that have happened and are still to happen to me in aviation, thanks to aviation, but how it can also change other people's lives. So if you ask me, I do have a goal of growing, of getting more followers or more subscribers on YouTube. No. But I would define my goal as to, if I can inspire somebody, one person in the entire world who, just like me, has been in love with aviation for 30 years and haven't taken that first step yet, and I get them to do it through my content, through my stories, through my own experience, that to me, like, would be the best thing ever, and that's why I do it. That's why I keep doing it. I'm not a CFI. I'm not here. I don't intend to, like, teach anybody how to fly. I don't want to make the skies. I have no place in, like, telling people how to make the sky safer or to form better pilots. There's people out there doing that beautifully, masterfully. Channels that you, me, and lots of other people also follow, and that certainly inspired me. But even on the long form content that you mentioned on YouTube, I'm not trying to make it about how to fly a plane or what not to do in an emergency. It's really about, what are the stories that aviation helped me create for myself, not for others, for my friends, my family. And so sometimes I make a video about a weekend trip to a brewery upstate, and that to me, that's a great story. It was for me, so I want to share it. And in doing so, I try to put together all of the knowledge that I have in advertising and the stories that I've learned to tell there, and bring it to the content, because I know how hard it is to keep somebody entertained on YouTube and to get to watch your video, to the end. And I'm not trying to, get famous or anything. Certainly not. What I want is to be a person who gets to make a kind of content that aviation fans, enthusiasts can, just be entertained, get entertained with, or be entertained with, and most importantly, perhaps get inspired to start their own aviation stories. And like I said, to me, if I get one person to do that, one single person, that would be absolutely amazing.
It's really pretty great to hear the honesty and sincerity in I don't have a goal. I just want to share the experience.
Yeah.
So which means that I'm not going to ask this other question, which is because, on YouTube, you've got like 4,500 subscribers. You've got a good following on Instagram. And in the marketing world, in the direct response marketing world, it's a lot of talk about creators monetizing their platforms. And that, while I know in listening to you, and I believe you when you say that wasn't your goal, it was just sharing the experience. But so I'm not at, I did want to ask about that. I'm not going to, because it's irrelevant. You're not seeking to monetize the platform. There may have platforms. You may have been able to, but if you were some of these other gurus that claim that they've monetized it and now they're living on yachts around the world, you wouldn't still be doing advertising.
Probably not. Yeah.
So that's why that whole question that I had, just I know that like today you shared an Instagram story about leading edge supplements. Right. And I've seen a few other people share that. It looks like similar to last week on the podcast, I actually had met James Cox from Method 7 Aviation, or Method 7 is the company. They make sunglasses, not just sunglasses.
Flying eyes?
Yes. No. Method 7.
Oh, Method 7. Okay.
Their competitor.
Yeah.
To Flying Eyes. Maybe a competitor. Talking to James Cox last week, the CEO of Method 7, he probably would not say that they're a competitor. They're in two different ballparks. Mm-hmm. But they're competing for the same market.
Right.
I should say. Flying Eyes. But you do some work with Flying Eyes. You shared some stuff with leading edge supplements. I'm guessing they saw the influence or the amount of followers that you had, and how, frankly, how cool you. I mean, Josh Flowers and Chris up there at Angle of Attack, they have a large following, but they probably wouldn't consider themselves cool. And you're not a flight instructor. You're just the coolest man I've seen on Instagram sharing his experience. So they probably reached out to you and was like, "Hey, we got to get this guy to share our stuff." I don't know.
It's a very important question, and I appreciate you asking, because there's probably a lot of people, not a lot, but if somebody who's listening right now also follows me on both Instagram and YouTube, might be asking, well, if like he's talking about just not doing it for anything other than himself and his passion, but why does he advertise Flying Eyes or leading edge supplements? Well, I never went really after those brands. They came to me, and with one simple thing. And I'll start with leading edge because they reached out to me first. And the guy who makes it, who happens to be a guy who's in training for the Air Force, super cool guy. His name is Tom. And he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I have the same passion for aviation as you do. I'm working on this thing. I made this. And I see the way you share your stuff and how genuine and authentic the content is. You're not trying to sell things. You're not trying to teach people. You're not trying to, create rules or anything like that. And I think, I would love for you to try my product. Tell me what you think. And if you want to promote it, not as a media, as a guy who says, you know what, this is great. I really want you to try as well. That's how it happened. I tried their product. It was amazing, from the packaging to the taste and everything. And I've been active as far as, I have an active life as exercising and all. So it kind of like fit my lifestyle. I liked it. And he was like, you know what? This is something that regardless of any type of income or anything like that, I would go and say, hey, try this. This is so cool. Same thing with Flying Eyes. Flying Eyes has ambassadors, famous ones like Josh, like Lewis from Florida, Pilot Bambi in Europe. Wow, would I love to be their ambassador? Yeah, but I don't see myself as a guy who helps to sell sunglasses online. That's not what I'm in for. So I went to Sun and Fun, and I liked the brand. I liked the glasses, and I even told this story. It's actually coming up in one of my YouTube videos. I was like, I had never tried their sunglasses because sunglasses are personal. You want to try them on before committing to paying $300, right? Yeah. And because they are not sold, at least not in New York, they're not sold in stores. You can't really go somewhere, try one on and say, yes, it looks good to me. Like, I'll get it. So somebody actually reached out to me once from their marketing team and said, hey, do you have Flying Eyes? And I said, no, I have never tried it, but I couldn't try. One day I'll walk into one of your booths and get to try one. So I went to Sun and Fun, and this was I didn't call them anything. I just walked into their booths. I see one of the sunglasses and I try one on. And this woman approached me. Her name is Jamie. She approached me and said, do you know the brand? And I was like, yeah, I'm actually a big fan because I know that lots of, famous pilots use they certainly, the sunglasses certainly look amazing online or in photos and whatever. I was super curious to try. And the moment I tried, I was like, oh my God, this is so great. It's so light and it fits the, the headsets and whatnot. And I told her, like, I'll take one. I know it's sort of like, it's an expensive sunglasses, but I see it as an investment in my flying because it's more comfortable. For a pilot, you are looking for your best setting in the cockpit. And I'm like, yeah, I want this. And she asked me like, what's your name? And I said, Bruno. And she goes like, wait a minute. And then she puts the phone and she looks at the, the Instagram, and ultimately she finds, you're flying with Bruno. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. And we started talking,
right.
Like why I know her brand, their brand, and how cool I think it is. And this is not me like trying to get something. I'm honestly saying, reviewing the product like live in front of her. This is so cool. This is great. And I have a friend with me, and we're both trying the sunglasses and whatnot. I was like, I want one. Here's my credit card. And I mean, long story short, I walked out of the booth with a free sunglass, which I love, absolutely love. And I told them, listen, I'm not, obviously they didn't want to turn me into an ambassador or anything like that. They gave me a discount code. And I was like, you know what? I want to promote this, not because I want to get something out of it, which I probably won't. I just want more people to know that this is that's probably a better sunglass than the one you currently use as a pilot, you like anybody. And hey, if I can use my following to promote something, a product that I like, I will do it, regardless of the what I get in return. Yeah. I think just having a great experience in aviation, going back to my first post, is to share my experience. And if that experience happens to involve a product that I got somewhere, I think it's great. Whether it's a headset with noise canceling, whether it's a sunglass, whether it's a T-shirt, whether it's I don't know, just like a fly bag, I will say, hey, this is great, and I won't be committed to getting something out of the brands. Yeah. And honestly, I think that authenticity perhaps is the thing that may have made companies, aviation-related companies, from avionics to sunglasses to pilot stores, online stores, to reach out to me and say, "Hey, we want to do something together. I think you're cool." And that to me is the thing. It's not like, "Hey, you have 100,000 followers. We want to use you to promote our products." I mean, I had companies reach out to me with that kind of like a purpose in between the lines. I was like, "No, thanks. That's not what I'm in for." And I try to keep that commercial side, if you will. I don't want to look like I'm doing advertising for a brand. Right. Whenever you see me promoting something, even though I'm following like the basic rules of tagging them, providing a link direct to their page or whatever. I don't get anything from selling their stuff. I just want to say, hey, if you like aviation, you were a pilot, just, here's an advice. I use this. You should check it out. You may like it too. So just, that's my, obviously when you start growing a following, you get reached out by people, and you even find yourself in a position where you're like, this like YouTube allows me to monetize my videos. Should I change something? Should I adapt to it? I was like, yeah, it's so easy to jump on the bandwagon, but, and I did that. My YouTube now has like ads, which are annoying, but everybody else's has. So like I couldn't help it. But I think that like, have I got anything in return from that? Or like does it become a source of income? Like, no. Do I envision myself making money out of YouTube? Absolutely not. Will I continue to put the same kind of effort in my videos? Yes. Do I want to get like 50,000 subscribers? Do I want 1,000 subscribers and get that cool, like from YouTube, right. Thing? Yeah, I would love that. But just so I can have companies reach out to me, no. It's more like, hey, if I one day get to 100,000 subscribers, which I translate to people who are interested in hearing my own stories, my stories, or get inspired by it. That's the biggest, return I can ever get from that. And so that's what I just keep doing, and I do the same thing over and over. So that's the gist of it.
So you're talking about going down to Lakeland for Sun and Fun, which you did not fly all the way down there.
Unfortunately not.
You got stuck in Jacksonville, right?
Yeah.
And then rented a car and drove the rest of the way. That's determination. I think everybody that followed your journey was like, man, that's determined.
Well, we had a mission that day.
Yeah.
And we made it all the way to Florida. We happened to be in a place where, it was close enough to drive. Driving wasn't impossible or a bad idea at that point.
Yeah.
When I made that trip and I decided to, and I happen to be editing that video now, which is cool because I get to relive it. It was really about the learning experience that I would have, like in flying that route, and it was certainly really challenging all the way there and back. And the things you face, the things you go through, the different scenarios you get to experience. I had never done such a long flight, and when you plan for it, everything, all your training and everything needs to come into play, because you're certainly going to hit, weather is going to change along the route. You're in places that you never flew around. There are so many things you have to, be concerned about or be mindful of. And even though I had a 24-year old experience, not a 24-year, but a pilot with 24 years experience sitting right next to me, I really assumed the PIC position, pilot in command, meaning I want all decisions to be mine. I wanted to feel like I was in control, not because I ego or anything, because I was always putting myself in the position of, what if he wasn't here?
Right.
Would I be able to do it? And because that's how you learn. That's how your experiences come and you learn things. So it was challenging. And when we get to Jacksonville in rain and low visibility, and we were like in a rush to get out, because at that moment,
the rush is the worst.
It's the worst.
The worst thing to do when flying. Rushing a pre-flight inspection, rushing anything.
Yeah.
In aviation is a bad idea.
Oh, totally bad idea. And it has, unfortunately, killed lots of pilots.
Yeah.
There's a famous thing that I learned in my very early days in aviation. It's called like get there itis, which is the name that they give for that desire to get where you're going over anything else. and that may cloud your judgment, may make you rush into a pre-fly and whatnot. Yep. So as we're getting to Jacksonville and we're still in the air, both of us in the plane are like, well, we're doing math. And he's like, well, we need to turn around, have a really fast turnaround in Jacksonville. If you want to fly to Lakeland and get there in that short 1 hour window between the moment the air show and the airport closes. And we didn't know what to expect. It was, the first time flying there. The weather was getting worse. We had a short window. So we land and we're, it's raining. We're in a rush to, use the bathroom and then, like figure out the stuff and look at the weather and whatnot. And I'm like, one of the important things as a pilot is for you to identify when you start having what I call bad thoughts. It's very easy to have them, and I don't blame anyone for having them. It's just important to identify and kill it. So I'm looking at the weather, and there's a screen on the FBO, and I'm looking and I see the weather, like, there's storms south of us, basically a wall between us and Lakeland. We are already in the rush because there's a short window for us to actually get there. The weather is bad. It's raining, and we kind of feel rushed. And I was like, something's off. Let's take a deep breath. And I look to the counter of the FBO, and there's a sign that says Hertz. And I'm like, we're close enough to drive, and we're trying. I looked at my plane sitting outside, tied down. It was an FBO. I knew it would stay there, for 3 days without an issue. I was like, you know what? Like, there's nothing to, really think about. Let's drive. And I told my friend, let's drive. And he's like, oh, I hadn't thought of that, but yes, let's drive. So it was like the moment both of us made that decision, it was like the world had like all the weight that we were, carrying. It's like, oh, we got to do this. And all of these concerns immediately went away. And our mission, which was to get to Sun Fun, suddenly all of the stress and the things that we needed to consider went out the window, and we're just more relaxed. And that was an important decision that I made as a pilot. And people think, like, I always tell all the people, like, sometimes the best decision a pilot can make is to not fly, because flying isn't the safest thing we do. Riding a motorcycle on the road isn't either, but flying, like, the hole is always under you. And I always think that every time you take off, there's so much responsibility that you're carrying with you, for others, for yourself, for those who are in the plane with you. So I'm always playing on the safe side. And that day, I think it was a very important decision and learning experience to decide not to fly, to leave all of that dream of landing on a taxiway and getting into that crazy traffic and experiencing all of that, and even making content out of it, producing. I had the video that I wanted to make in my mind and all of that. I was so excited. But then, like, that moment, I had very clearly what my priority should be or was supposed to be. And I'm happy that, just looking back, we made the right decision. There's always next year, to fly to Sun Fun. But the important thing is our mission was to get there, and we took plan B. And aviation is always about plan B, C, and D. You got to be prepared for things to go wrong, or for you to be able to, for the need to change plans and be okay with it. Sometimes you have a plan B in mind for anything in life, but the moment you have to go to plan B, you're like, oh, like, I wasn't counting on it. This is going to ruin the day, or whatever it may be. In aviation, just consider plan B is the thing that will happen. And if plan A happens, then great. But always be prepared for plan B. So the moment you need to make the call, you don't have to think about it. You're like, oh, I expected that. And I found that that's my approach to not only aviation, and it spills into your life, because every time we make plans to drive somewhere, go to the beach, go to a barbecue, anything. I mentally prepare myself for things to go the other way. And if you do that in advance, there's no way you're going to be, then you're going to feel like, what's the word I'm looking for? Disappointed.
Yeah.
No, you're prepared for it. And in aviation, that may save your life.
Yeah. That's an amazing point. It really is. Now, the plane that you flew down there was your Grumman Cheetah.
Yes.
Right. I've always thought that, ever since following your page and, seeing that, it's like, this is really cool. This is not a normal, it's not as common of an airplane,
right,
as many others are flying, whether it's a Beechcraft, a Piper, a Cessna, one of those big three. To me, those are the big three. And there's a lot of different levels of Beechcraft, from that range. But whether it's a 172 or a Cherokee or a Warrior, I was flying a Warrior for a while. But how did you come across the Cheetah, and why? I mean, why not a Cherokee? I mean, you're only going to fit two people in it anyways.
It was a matter of opportunity, really.
Okay.
I started looking at airplanes, and I was doing this for the first time, so I knew nothing about it. And honestly, I didn't really know lots of people who were owners to even give me advice, So I'm looking into planes, I'm going to the internet, I'm checking all of these planes that are advertised, in different sites. And I was like, oh, there's a phone number. I would call the owner, and he or she would either be 2,500 miles across the country. And I wouldn't, just to get there to do a pre-buy inspection with a mechanic would be hard. Or I remember, I learned about the Grummans while doing all this research, and I really, really liked the plane. Okay. And I remember seeing one in Florida, and I was willing to fly there just to see the plane, and I'm like, almost booking tickets, why not? So I called the guy. He was like super nice, and the plane was super nice. And he told me, listen, if you're coming, that's fine, but just know that there's another guy who haven't even seen the plane yet, but he gave me couple $100,000 or whatever, just so nobody can take his place. So he committed, and if anything, I'll just return his money or whatever. So it's a race, and I was like, I don't want to get into that, and I was getting a little bit disappointed about all of that. I'm like, oh, if only there was a plane sitting right here next door in New York that I could go, that nobody else knew about. Perhaps there's a guy who hasn't advertised yet. So I go to this Facebook page and I post, I want to buy, I'm looking for a plane. I need advice. This is my mission with the plane. What do I want my plane to do? And lots of people responded. Well, one guy that I don't know, and I have never met to this day, reached out to me on Messenger, and he said, private message, he said, hey, Bruno, my name is Javier, it's his name. And he said, I have a friend in Long Island. He has a Grumman Cheetah. He wants to sell it. He's thinking about selling it. I think you should give him a call. And I call him. The name of the guy was Kevin. CFI, a charter pilot in the Caribbean, lives in Long Island, and had a plane that he bought for his son. But his son didn't really pursue aviation. So he would fly the plane every 2 weeks. A month or so. And I meet him at the airport, 60 miles from my apartment. The plane was great. He was great. But it fit my mission. And did I know a lot about Grummans? No. But when I saw the plane there and it was like, it's here, right in front of me, that honestly made all the difference. Wow. Would I have chosen a Grumman if there was a Cessna or a Cherokee that I had found in the same situation? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I wasn't after Grumman. But the fact that the plane was sitting there And that moment where all the other experience, the previous experiences of, calling people across the country and trying to, find a plane that nobody had seen yet, it just felt like the right opportunity. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. And if it's a bad choice, I'd rather learn from it later. And a bad choice meaning like perhaps maybe a bad deal. I don't know if the plane wasn't in good shape or anything like that. But surprisingly, the plane was awesome. The guy, Kevin, was so great. We keep in touch to this day. It felt right. And so that's when I went for it. If I were looking for a specific plane, perhaps Cherokee or Cessna, I could, to this day, still be searching, and I wouldn't have had all the great experiences that I had and learnings, for that matter, that I had in the past 8-10 months or something like that. So was I looking for a Grumman? No, but the opportunity presented itself, and it was far better than any other opportunity that had, appeared to me up to that moment. And ultimately, I made a great deal because the plane is great. Everywhere I go, people look at the plane and they're like, oh, the engine sounds so healthy. And the mechanic is like, listen, I did the annual, nothing to fix, just the usual stuff. So things that I didn't even know about and wouldn't even consider because I didn't have the experience for it. But now I know that, when you buy a plane, sometimes it looks great, but you don't know where you're walking into. This one, it was a mix of luck and opportunity, but I did walk into a great deal. Is it the perfect plane? No. Like you said, if I want to carry 2 people, I have to do math like all night long, to kind of figure it out. But it took me to Florida and back safely. I've been to places and I had great stories to tell. I've, you just like, you start to create the bond with the plane. You start to know the plane. And I've learned so much about mechanics and other things that are important for you to know as a pilot.
Yeah.
I just think I don't regret a single bit. Would I want to fly a Bonanza or, an Arrow or a 182? Of course. Maybe one day I will. But do I regret having this plane now? Absolutely not.
No. I mean, it's really fantastic. And I wouldn't want to say anything like I did to make you think that it's not good enough because it's an amazing plane.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
No, it is. It is. And you know what? When I go back to my mission that I stated, and I'm saying this because I'm even talking to myself, sometimes do I wish the plane was faster, could carry more weight and all of that? Yeah, of course. I think about that all the time. But when I go back to the mission that I stated on that Facebook page, I wanted a plane, the kind of plane that it's that plane. Yeah. And I can't complain about it. So awesome.
Nice. Man, I've really, really enjoyed this conversation. And
me too. Thank you.
I mean, everything from the advertising to social media and of course flying, which is really, like I was saying earlier, how our paths crossed was through aviation on Instagram. This has been really cool. I don't know if you've noticed, maybe you have, but we're going on like an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, I just looked at it, and actually, I need to go back to my work because I have stuff to do.
Oh yeah.
But listen, man, I really enjoy this. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I was so flattered when you reached out in the first place. Advertising is funny because advertising, or even my life, my personal life in general, is not something that I open up about much in my page because I want to make it strictly about aviation. Not that it would be wrong to do it otherwise, but I just try to stick to that. But advertising is certainly another passion of mine. It's what I've been doing for the past 18 years. And honestly, it's what led me to aviation in the first place, led me to the United States and the life that I have now. So I love getting to talk about that. It's not everybody that loves aviation who's also interested in advertising, but you happen to be one of those people, and I really appreciate the opportunity for this talk. I'm thrilled to meet you. Like we have so much in common. I would love to go grab a beer with you someday. I'm pretty sure you have the chance. Maybe I'll fly to you, and we get to do that.
There's a lot of really nice places around here in the Panhandle of Florida. So is there anything else that you'd like to leave with our listeners? Some where can people learn more about you? I can add the Leading Edge link on there, or the Flying Eyes. Sorry to mess that up, but the Flying Eyes link. If you want those, or if you've got a website or whatever you want to share with folks, where they can learn more about you and what you do.
Definitely. So I think we talked about two things mainly, which is advertising and aviation. On the advertising side, I have a portfolio, which is really a page for where I just showcase my work and the things that I'm most proud of in my career. It's my, I'll send you the link because it's my first name, last name.com. And my last name is kind of tricky. It's Bruno Brasileiro, which really means Brazilian in Portuguese. And that's my last
Really?
name. It's like if you were called like Lance American,
Wow.
So my name is brunobrasileiro.com, and I'll spell that. So that's my advertising life. And for my aviation life, if you will, my Instagram page is at fly_with_Bruno. Yeah. And on YouTube, it's just fly with Bruno, because that wasn't taken. And so it's without the underscore. So it's just like fly with Bruno. And even if you type in the sort of like the wrong name, just like see me there, it will pop up as one of the options.
Right.
But that's the two main things that I have online nowadays. That really are sort of like a window to what I do and into my life. And if anybody's interested in knowing more about my advertising life or my aviation life, I would be thrilled if you came visit, pay a visit and watch some of the stuff. And other than that, it was just great talking to you, getting to share some of these experiences. I think that one last thing that I would say, because I know that this podcast is really about inspiring people in whatever they do, in life. I would just say, don't ever give up in what you have passion for, because your passion, whatever it is, will always be greater than the challenges that you face to get there. And whether you're learning to play guitar, learning to fly, or just learning to cook, whatever it may be, there will always be things and people that will get in the way. And just let your passion do its thing. And it will always speak louder and give you whatever you need to get to where you're going. And fulfilling a dream that you have in your life, whether you've been having that dream for 30 years or 5 months, it's the best thing you can do in life for you and for others. You'll be happy, and I for a lot of people, I know sometimes it's hard to go after what they really love.
Yeah.
I just say, like, don't miss the opportunity to do it, whatever it is, because it's so worth it. So that's my final message.
Man, that's great. It truly is. I'm thinking of people right now that I could turn around and say, hey, you need to hear this.
Yeah.
Because
yeah. And thanks for the time, Lance. I really enjoyed this. I mean, it's been almost 2 hours. It flew by, and I like things that fly.
That's your dad joke for the day.
Yes. I'm not even a dad. So.
All right. Thank you very much. And take care.
Take care. Bye.